been incarcerated in this facility for 1 year, but I've been incarcerated for 14 and a half years. 3 months into my incarceration, I tried to take my own life because I couldn't deal with the guilt of what I had done to bring myself here.
From facing extreme isolation to enduring restraints during childbirth, these women encounter conditions that undermine their dignity and stretch their endurance to the limit. Confined within institutions where rights violations occur regularly, their experiences are more distressing than most can fathom. These are women's prisons in Japan that represent a place where suffering is masked by unforgiving walls of confinement, making life feel worse than death. Tokyo Women's Prison. We kick off with Tokyo Women's Prison. This prison is located in the heart of Tokyo, Japan's capital city. Tokyo Women's Prison is well known for the terrible treatment of female prisoners. It has become an important institution that shapes discussions on human rights abuse and system malfunction in the Japanese penal system, especially concerning women offenders. Solitary confinement is often accompanied by overcrowding of the prison environment, which worsens the situations of the inmates. The lack of personal space inside increases stress and aggression among the prisoners. According to the reports, some female inmates are forced to live in the same cell, thus having no private spaces and limited self-government. Such conditions create a setting in which an offender cannot be reformed since they can barely maintain their psychological well-being in prison. Another area that seems to be very worrying in Tokyo Women's Prison is the healthcare issue, which is a problem with the adequate care of the prisoners. Most women report their unhappiness with regard to the restricted availability of such healthcare services for them, especially if they have other complicating illnesses or mental health disorders. There are various cases of human rights abuses in this particular prison, including prisoners, especially pregnant women who are restrained during childbirth. This can be seen as a lack of empathy, and adequate medical care is another failure in meeting the basic human rights of inmates in prison. Examples of mental illnesses that affect the women in the Tokyo Women's Prison are as follows. Essentials also shows that a considerable number of inmates have traumatic backgrounds, which include committing domestic violence and sexual assault. According to the research conducted, it was found that the majority of women who are in prison have expressed that they have been victims of violence, and this has helped in the fact that most of them have mental health problems. In particular, there are no sufficient psychological support services in the prison for these women to access the essential treatment they require during their prison term. The punitive environment in the center does not support the rehabilitation process and makes the patient's condition even worse. The environment in Tokyo Women's Prison has been condemned due to its lack of strict and efficient rehabilitation programs. Due to poor resource provision and facilities, inmates are forced to keep a cycle of repeating the offenses committed. Sadly, as it stands, many women leave prison without adequate rehabilitation and reintegration programs, and therefore tag them high for reformation. If you love our content, why don't you subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one? We'll keep you updated each time we post content to keep you abreast of what's happening worldwide. Feel appreciated. Kinko Prison. Now it's time to turn to another prison. Kinko Prison, located in Osaka and known as one of the most horrifying women's penitentiaries in Japan. This prison was opened in 1993 and has been in controversies for the past years regarding its inhumane treatment, negligence in providing medical facilities, and other issues that are worse enough affecting the mental and physical health of the inmates. Overcrowding is one of the primary concerns in Kinko Prison. Constructed for the approximate capacity of 800 inmates, the facility often holds almost double the number, limiting space and living conditions. Measures are taken to confine detainees to cramped cells typified by poor air circulation, natural lighting, and amenities. The absence of personal space can further intensify mental health issues such as anxiety and depression, as it is common for prisoners to be survivors of some sorts of trauma that led them to imprisonment. Additional reports indicate that the physical structure of the prison is in dire need of renovation, and the existing structures are in a state of disrepair. The buildings demonstrate signs of aging and disrepair, and inadequate climate control causes temperature fluctuations that can harm inmates' health. These harsh conditions create hopelessness and despair as factors that challenge rehabilitation. It is evident that the women detained in Kinko Prison suffer psychologically. Some of the patients have mental disorders on admission, and their conditions worsen due to stressful environments. This is made worse by the scarcity of mental health services and support systems, and many women end up dealing with these issues alone. The mental health care policy practiced in the prison is often considered inadequate, mainly because inmates have little to no access to therapy or counseling. Additionally, the prison culture is hostile. Reports of bullying and intimidation, both among inmates and from the prison staff, have emerged, creating a climate of fear instead of support. This toxic environment stifles the possibility of rehabilitation and personal development for incarcerated women. Another issue in relation to medical care is that it is present within Kinko Prison. Captives tend to wait long hours for healthcare, and even when healthcare arrives, it may be substandard. This is particularly a problem given that women have unique healthcare needs, including concerning reproductive health. A lot of women complain that their needs are not taken seriously or ignored, saying that their health ailments are neglected and left unattended to worsen. Employees in the prison may be ill-prepared to manage medical complications that are common with female prisoners. Hence, they are often able to deal with their health-related issues independently, with a lot of strife added to their more than already dire health situation and no hope of being effectively rehabilitated. Tokaji Women's Prison. Going to the next facility, Tokaji Women's Prison, located in Tokaji, Japan, is one of the most controversial places because of its treatment of female inmates and the challenging conditions there. Built for women convicted of different crimes, Tokaji has been associated with heavily restricted rules, and the culture seems to be more like punishment rather than reform. The architectural environment of Tokaji Women's Prison. The environment of Tokaji Women's Prison resembles a concrete and dull setting, analogous to those of many prisoners in Japan. These structures have no elaborate designs on the exterior or interior and do not prioritize the comfort of prisoners. Instead, they employ punitive designs. These cells are commonly characterized by a cold and unwelcoming atmosphere that simply worsens the psychological conditions of the prisoners. Crowding is mentioned as one of the major issues, which leads to small spaces, and in combination with the challenging environment, only increases the difficulties. Life in Tokaji is strictly regulated, and inmates must perform most of the activities in specific ways. During work and meal times, the prison is silent, limiting the interaction among the prisoners. This policy prevents women from developing supportive relationships within the policy's confines, which makes it isolating. Stress, lack of social interaction, and depression can be attributed to feelings of loneliness among blind prisoners. Human rights activists have accused Tokaji of violating human rights regarding the welfare of inmates. Ex-convicts and advocacy organizations have highlighted such rights violations as being common, and these include a lack of adequate health care. According to the reports, access to medical attention is limited and generally poor concerning psychiatric disorders, which are prevalent in the prisons. Several female participants have complained of general disregard regarding the medical aspect of their well-being, including physical and mental health. They experience neglected health problems and a deterioration of pre-existing mental disorders. Additionally, the lack of family contact is a crucial concern for Tokaji. Many female inmates are separated from their children, which can lead to profound emotional distress. The visitation policies are strict, and it is often heavily monitored even when contact is permitted. There have been reports of mothers being restrained during childbirth within the prison, underscoring the dehumanizing practices that can occur in these facilities. While Tokaji Women's Prison is primarily seen as a punitive institution, there are programs aimed at rehabilitation. However, These programs have been criticized for being insufficient and lacking resources. Inmates may participate in work programs, such as sewing or craft work, but these opportunities often feel more like a means of maintaining prison operations than genuine rehabilitation efforts. Critics argue that without adequate education and mental health services, the likelihood of recidivism remains high, negating any potential benefits of the limited programs offered. Fuji Prison, Women's Section. Lastly, let's look at Fuji Prison, Women's Section, which is located in Tokyo and is one of Japan's most infamous women's correctional facilities. It has faced significant criticism for its harsh conditions and the treatment of inmates, making it a key point of discussion regarding the nation's penal system. Fuji Prison is notorious for its overcrowded environment, resulting in a significant lack of personal space and privacy for the inmates. Although the facility has basic necessities, it often feels stark and unwelcoming. The atmosphere contributes to a sense of despair among the inmates, which can be aggravated by the strict daily routines they are required to follow. Human rights organizations have pointed out numerous troubling practices at Fuji Prison. Inmates encounter rigid regulations, including restricted access to medical care and psychological support. Mental health challenges are prevalent among women incarcerated there, and many reporting inadequate treatment for their conditions. The use of solitary confinement has raised significant concern, as some inmates are subjected to extended isolation for minor infractions, leading to considerable psychological distress. The treatment of mothers at Fuji is particularly alarming. Reports indicate that newborns are often separated from their incarcerated mothers shortly after birth, causing immense emotional agony. In some instances, women have alleged being restrained during childbirth, raising severe human rights concerns. Despite the fact that Fuji Prison has some elements of rehabilitation programs, they appear to lack adequate funding and coverage. Access to education and vocational training is rare, and prisoners complain that existing programs in prisons do not prepare them to lead a normal life after serving their prison term. Critics believe that such programs require serious funding because otherwise, recidivism or reoccurrence becomes an uncontrolled problem. For more videos related to the above content, like and subscribe to get a notification every time we upload one.